Okay, so in class we've introduced you to the text Skellig by the author David Almond. First thing I'd like you to do is to read from chapters 1 through to chapter 7, please. So pause this clip, read those chapters, and as soon as you've done that, you can press play again. Now, today in our English lesson, we're going to be looking at apostrophes for contraction. Now, we looked at those briefly yesterday in our SPAG lesson, so you'll remember what they are. It's where words like could not become couldn't, would not, wouldn't, and so on. And I'd like you to write a list, please, of all the different contracted words that you think of, and then I'd like you to try and spell check them, and you can do that asking an adult in your house, or you can do that using the internet as well. So make sure that you've got a list of correctly spelled contracted words. Again, pause this clip so that you can do that now. Now, for our writing task, I'd like us to think a little bit about who we think Skellig is. We know a little bit about him already from chapters 1 to 7, but we don't know much. There's a lot that we can assume, predict, guess about who we think this character is or what he is. What clues have we got in the text so far? So write a little list of some of the clues you might have picked up on in the text, or write a little list of some of the things that you predict that he could be. So pause this again and then come back to it when you're done. Now, the writing task you've got for today is to write a good paragraph, at least 7 or 8 lines, detailing who you think Skellig is and why you think that. So there isn't a right or wrong answer to this. I'd like you to use the evidence that you've got, but there really isn't a silly answer to this question. When you're writing this paragraph, I'd like you to try and use within it some of the contractions that you've written in our grammar focus, so some of those contracted words. So for example, you might start a sentence with, I don't think Skellig is, or he couldn't be our, whatever it is, because. So try and get some contracted words in, and just as I've done in my sentences there, underline them when you've finished so they really stand out. So writing a paragraph, detailing who or what you think Skellig is. Today I'd like you to start off by reading chapters 8 to 10 of Skellig. So pause this clip now and do that, and as soon as you've read those chapters, press play again and we'll continue with today's lesson. Alright, so in a couple of lessons time we're going to be writing a formal letter. But today we're going to spend the lesson actually looking at what a formal letter is and what the features are within formal letters, so that when we actually come to writing one ourselves, we know what to include. So, features of a formal letter are things like you'd always have the sender's address and the recipient's address. Now, the recipient is a really posh word for the person you're sending the letter to, the person who's going to receive that letter. The letter will always open with a greeting, so dear sir or madam, or dear Mrs. Rin, or whoever it may be if you actually know the person that you're writing to. And there'll always be an opening paragraph detailing why you're actually writing that letter. There'll be formal language used, so you don't use contracted words, like the contracted words we were looking at yesterday, couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, and so on. You do not use contracted words in a formal letter. It's seen as informal language. You need the date the letter's been sent on the right hand side, and then you'll have the introduction stating the purpose of the letter. Again, that's the opening paragraph, and you'll have the conclusion, the final paragraph of the letter, that outlines any expectations that you have in terms of what you'd like the person you've sent the letter to do after they've read your letter. And obviously in between the introduction and conclusion, you've got the main body of your letter, the reason why you're actually writing it. Letters always end in a formal way, so you've got either yours sincerely if you know the person that you're writing to, or if you don't know the person you're writing to, you would write yours faithfully. Now, in terms of the task today, you should have a copy there of a waggle, what a good one looks like. So there's a copy there of a formal letter, and I would like you to identify as many of the features listed above as you can within that letter. So find out, does it have a sender's address? Has it got a recipient's address? Can you spot the date on the right hand side? You may spot other features of a formal letter where you think, oh, Miss O'Shea's missed that out. I'm going to add that into my sort of features of a formal letter as well. So that's your first task. So do that now, pause this, and then come back to it as soon as you're done. Now for the second part of the task, you're going to be looking at the different book covers that have been used when publishing Skellig. You're going to write a paragraph about these different book covers, and you're going to identify what the covers tell you about the story. Do they give any clues away? Because obviously now you're up to the end of chapter 10. Do the book covers actually give you any idea about what's going on in the story? Do they help you make a prediction about what's going to happen? Do they give you a bit more clarity in terms of what's happened so far? Do all the book covers give you the same feeling about the book? I know they don't for me when I look at them. I find some of the book covers quite creepy, and I find some of them a little bit more inviting. Some of them are brighter than others, and so on. Are there any that make you more likely to pick it up off the shelf if you saw it in a bookshop? And why is that? So again, I'd like you to write me a really good paragraph about these book covers. Now the book covers are on the next slide of this PowerPoint. So again, as soon as I finish speaking, it'll flash over to all these different book covers. Pause it at that point, and you should be able to write a decent paragraph for me. Which book cover appeals to you the most and why? Okay. So these are the book covers I was talking about on the previous slide. I've only chosen 8. There are many more. So if you actually Google Skellig and go to images within Google, there are lots more different book covers that have been used to publish Skellig. So again, which one appeals to you the most and why? I wonder if you can guess which one I find the creepiest of all of them, and I wonder if you can guess which one I would pick up off the shelf. So we're going to be stepping away from Skellig for one lesson this week, because today is Democracy Day, and it's the day where we all elect our class counsellors. Now, I want you to have a bit of a think about what makes a good school counsellor and what qualities should a school counsellor have. So I'd like you to pause the video at this point and make a list for me. What makes a good school counsellor and what qualities should somebody who is our school counsellor have? Pause it now. Okay, so in terms of our lesson today, you're going to be writing a manifesto detailing all the reasons why you think you would make an excellent school counsellor for your class. You may have already been the school counsellor for your class. You may have had someone in your family who was before, or you may be really inspired to become a school counsellor based on whoever your class counsellor was last year. In terms of writing this manifesto, it should be at least a full A4 page, because you're talking about lots and lots of different qualities that you as a person have. So this isn't the time to be modest. It's very hard sometimes to say nice things about ourselves, but when you're writing a manifesto, this is a time where you really can. So I've outlined 4 things here, 4 sections really, that your manifesto can be split into, just to give you an idea. You may have more ideas than I've mentioned here, but you may want to structure it in the way that I've outlined. So the first paragraph, really, tell us who you are and why you want to be school counsellor. The second paragraph, if you go into a bit of detail about what qualities you have that make you a good choice for the role, you know, are you a good listener? Are you someone who's a great role model in terms of the 3 C's, and so on. Third paragraph, what do you aim to do in your role as school counsellor? So if you become the school counsellor, what are you going to do in your role? Do you have your eye on a particular thing? Do you think, oh, do you know what? I want to get a football pitch painted onto the field permanently so we can use it all year round. You might have a totally different idea. And then the 4th paragraph, really, use it for anything else you feel we should know about you. Obviously, feel free if you want to add more things to your manifesto than I've mentioned here. Go for it. It needs to be an A4 page at a minimum, but you can write more than that if you want to. So today's writing task, write a manifesto about why you would be a good school counsellor.